This is In Goal Radio, the podcast. Make sure you go to your favorite podcast provider, rate, like, subscribe. I mention this because it really does help us out, and helping us out helps you out because we create more content and thus you learn more, and it's a vicious cycle. Actually, it's not even vicious. It's just a fun cycle that goes around and around. So go to your favorite podcast subscriber provider and rate, like, and subscribe. I'm Darren Millard. Welcome to In Goal Radio, the podcast with your co-founders, David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley. Woody, how are you guys making out in the Lower Mainland?
It's we're doing okay. I think I'm used to sort of living in my basement and working from home, so this adjustment for me has maybe been a little bit smoother than it has been for others, but we're getting there.
Hutch, on Vancouver Island, everything continuing and at the pace that we now know the world to be at?
Like Woody, I work from home normally, so things feel sort of normal. I saw somebody on Twitter the other day say, this situation for an introvert, this is my Super Bowl. I've been training for this for years. It's actually not bad being at home and working. And of course it's March break normally for the kids, but once you get out there, you really feel the reality of what's happening. And it is difficult when you get away from home for sure. Eh, Woody?
Yeah. And I was going to say the one caveat would be, you're right. Right now the kids would have been home anyways, but as a guy who's used to working from home, the concept of doing it for potentially months at a time here with the kids also at home with me has made for some interesting times. Not challenging, fun, some more family time. Unfortunately, I tend to lose a few bets around board games or even the odd pool game. So far, I've been forced to learn a TikTok dance as punishment for one such loss. And if you keep an eye on our social media later tonight, you may see me completely made up, as in my daughter won a bet, and I now have to let her use me as her makeup doll tonight. So Kevin Woodley and Drag coming to an Instagram near you. This is one of the downsides of being stuck at home with teenage daughters.
Well, there's a whole social commentary and social media channel, really, that's exploded on this idea of what you're doing during the pause in sports as the virus runs its course through North America and globally. And there's some really interesting things, and you shouldn't lose track of the fact that it's scary, it's serious, and you better do your part. If you think it's an inconvenience to be on a place or in an area where it's essential services only, just get sick, and then you'll figure out that it's that they're a whole nother level. So first responders, nurses, doctors doing their part. We should all subscribe and do ours as well.
Amen.
I think, as a goalie parent, we all get to this time of year and you get that old fear of missing out, better sign my kid up for spring hockey, better put my kid in more camps, better do more. And yet we hear the experts say all the time, time to take a break, let them recharge, let them miss hockey. So I think maybe there's a blessing in disguise if there can be one. We have to look for a few positives, and that's that our kids are away from the rink now for a while, but there's no fear of missing out because everybody's missing out right now. So hopefully they're running around the backyard, they're doing a little bit of fitness, they're riding their bikes, whatever. But I think this break could be good for a lot of reasons.
Right, and there's that's still okay being outside.
Yeah.
Social,
Yeah.
Be conscious of being socially distant and maintain that space between each other. But you can still do a lot of things and participate in a lot of activities as long as you're practicing the proper protocols.
Social distancing. I would also like to thank my wife for buying a Peloton before Christmas, because I'm not going to get totally out of shape here amidst all this. I can ride the bloody Peloton bike.
Really?
Yeah, it's awesome.
I predict that there's 3 shirts on that thing by next Thursday, just hanging.
Is that
no
because
riding in a real Peloton though?
Okay,
That's not social
so as I pan, and of course our listeners won't be able to see this, as I pan my office, the back of it is a gym, and there's the old. I'd like to say that there are jerseys hanging off the Bomax climber, Darren. So, but I think that's just because I now have the Peloton as an option, not because I've
you've moved on.
Hey, speaking of the listeners not being able to see what Woody was just panning to, for the first time, our feature interview this week was actually done on video as well, and we put it up on premium for all our subscribers. So one little benefit of In Goal Premium is that you may see a few more of our feature interviews in person as well, and there were some demonstrations there that made it good to see in person. But I was thinking of that because you boys both mentioned TikTok dances. If I wish we could have some challenge, if we could say if this got enough likes, the three of us would do a TikTok dance together on video next week or something.
I have no idea what the relevant comparable would be, but I'm in.
Maybe we get...
Guys, it's a lot harder than you think it is. I mean, it took me 20 minutes to learn.
Well, we could all have our daughters on with us as well
was
teaching.
The simplest TikTok dance ever.
Which one did you do? Because I've done a couple.
I don't know if there was a name on it, but there's a lot of
hands.
There was hands up. There was hands down. There was a shimmy. There might have been a shake. There might have been a shimmy and a shake.
Oh, you did the one with the hands and the shimmy
and the shake.
Yeah, I did the same one,
but rarely in the order or timing with which I was supposed to deliver. It was. Listen, hidden blessings, comedy. It was fun. We played a lot of board games. Forced family time at a time when we would normally be running to a music lesson here. In my case, a club volleyball game or practice there, like 6 nights a week. That sort of quiet family time in the evening. As my daughter's quite reverent at the age of 12, she wrote in her journal the other night, though, that she thought this was a blessing because we were having more of this time. So she kind of made my heart weep a little bit there. It's getting sappy in here.
And if you do, that is beautiful. And when your kids say that, it's one of those ones where it makes it all the stressful times worthwhile. But as you do play catch up, because there's no games and there's only classic games, no live games, no new games being played, it's a great opportunity to go through In Goal Premium, subscribe, and really sink your teeth into that product that we have on a subscription basis right now, Hutch.
Yeah, we've got all sorts of great stuff. Now that Woody and I have a little bit of extra time away from some of the other duties, we're getting a little bit more content up there, and I think a lot of people are enjoying the fact that there's some goaltending, information that they can digest and enjoy and learn from at this tough time of year. Few things that are new. Of course, I already mentioned that we've got this week's feature interview with Dusty Imoo up on video, and that's fun to see. We've got a couple of new pro drills and pro tips up on the site this week. Mikey DiPietro and Ian Clark working on some stuff. Also a bit of a psychology component, managing your own game in there. Got some interesting stuff from Rob Tallis and James Reimer looking at the use of the paddle down on wraparounds. We've got an interview with, it's a Q&A session with Carey Price from Eli Wilson's camp last summer, where he sat down in the room with all the kids and let them ask questions. We've got a pro read with Carey Price. We got, all sorts of good stuff coming up all the time, and really glad that people have chosen to join us there because, less than $1 a week, and that's Canadian. So that's about 25 cents in your money, Darren. Mm-hmm. Just a great opportunity for people to get involved and enjoy goaltending. And we thank everybody who's become part of that community there.
And where can they find all the content?
Real simple, ingoalmag.com/magazine. And, or you could just go to ingoalmag.com and you'll find a link. Real easy. The homepage is now open, and the first little while it wasn't. So you can actually go on there. You can see every article that's been published. You can use the menu to go to the different categories. We've got pro reads. We've got pro drills, pro gear. We've got some stuff on the mental game, some stuff on fitness. A lot of good stuff up there. You can go through. You can see every article that's available, and there's about 71, 72 of them published so far. Can't get in to see the articles, of course, until you're a member, but at least gives you an idea what it is that you'll see and the quality of what's in front of you. And then once you're a subscriber, there's 2 different ways of doing it. You can do it monthly. And if it's a monthly subscription, you get access to obviously everything going forward and 31 days of content prior to when you joined. A little bit like a regular magazine. If you buy a magazine off the shelf, you only get that issue and everything coming forward. So we're giving you a previous month. But if you're an annual member, you get access to the entire archive of everything that's in there. Much better deal, obviously, close to 40% less than doing it on a monthly basis. And that's about it, isn't it, Kevin? Anything I'm missing in there?
Well, I was just going to say the annual subscription is $50, and it's key to note that is in Canadian. So for all our listeners on the other side of the border, last I checked, our dollar was worth about 69 cents. So It's we're practically giving it away in America. It's there's a lot of good stuff in there, and there's a lot of good stuff coming. Trying to look on bright sides here, working on some pro read material with some current NHL goaltenders. This time of year into March and February, not a lot of practice days. When the NHL season was going, it was getting harder and harder to get guys in person when they came in through Vancouver. Early in the year, we had Freddie Anderson sit down with us and spend 15 minutes going over video and sharing his reads with us. And we're still rolling those out other time. But it was harder to get those types of interviews as we got closer to what should have been the playoffs. This is going to free things. This is going to free things up a little bit in terms of using our connections, using some of the relationships we've built. So giving the guys around the league a little time right now. As we know, NHL teams have allowed their players the option to go home to their home cities just on Monday. So we've got a lot of guys who are in transit right now, leaving their NHL cities and going to their hometowns. But once they get settled, some promises from some guys via text and whatnot, that they'll do some video sessions with us, that we'll have some more pro reads as well as interviews for In Goal Radio, the podcast, some more In Goal pro reads where they'll go over video and share their reads. And I think that's one that I think a lot of people have enjoyed, and one that I think, we talk about how can you get better when you're not able to go on the ice. One would be physical and training. I'd recommend checking out someone like Maria Mountain, who's excellent and has a lot of resources out there already online to help you work on an off-season plan, but also seeing how other goalies read the game. It's not something anybody else really gets a chance to do, and it's something we do in Pro Read. So as you were saying, Hutch, you did the math quickly there, $34 a year US for In Goal Premium. More than 70 articles up already, averaging close to 20 a month. So we're trying to bring good material to you. And yeah, go subscribe.
Hey, speaking of Maria Mountain, and we do have 3 articles that are up on Premium from Maria. They're exclusive to In Goal subscribers. If you've been on the web before checking out Maria's stuff, she publishes short videos pretty much every day, but she did some really in-depth stuff for us, and we want to thank her for that. But over the next couple of weeks, we are going to try a couple of webinars online for our members only. Pete Fry, the goalie mindset guy who has done some articles for us on Premium as well, is going to come on and do a seminar for our readers, our listeners, our members, and they'll be able to ask him some questions. And Maria's also agreed to come on and do a webinar for our members as well. So just an opportunity now for you to interact a little bit with these guys, ask them your own questions. Should be a fun experience for everybody.
Looking forward to both those. Maria is one of my favorites, and Pete is fascinating. If video is your thing, you like to sit there and watch a conversation as opposed to just throwing it on the podcast and riding around town with it, then our feature interview this week, Dusty Imoo, is available on the Premier Edition, so you can catch that. Right now, it's in its audio form. Dusty's an interesting guy. Been around the game. He's a lifer, a Western Hockey League Olympian with the Nagano Olympics, and then a professional goalie coach in North America, and spent this last season with the KHL in Beijing. And that is timely in the sense of where COVID-19 has originated and how it's running its course. So he's dealt with at the start and now at this stage when he's back home in North America in the Lower Mainland. So Dusty Imoo, second timer on In Goal Radio, the podcast, is our feature interview with Kevin Woodley. In Goal Radio, the podcast.
All right, well, we promised. So this is sort of a two-parter with Dusty Imoo, because we talked to you before you left to go coach in China for a KHL team, Kunlun Red Star.
Mm-hmm.
But the original intent was just to get your experiences, right? We caught up on your career and the path to here, and then we're like, we want to know what it was like in the KHL. Well, now we welcome you back, and it's not just life in the KHL. You were ground zero for, I guess the only thing we can call it now is a pandemic, and now you're home and you're seeing this in North America. So walk me through, like, at what point did you know you were in the midst of all this and the team was going to have to basically leave China and become a completely mobile operation?
Yeah, it was really an odd situation because it didn't seem like anything big. And then it went from 0 to 100 really fast. I can't remember the exact dates, but we played a game. I think it was on the 21st or 22nd of January at home in Beijing, and we had heard stuff about uh, the virus, but it wasn't really a big deal at that time. That's what we thought, anyways. And then after the game, we were on our way back to the hotel where the coaches we all live, and we're all in our same driver that drives us. We're sitting in the van, and Kurt Fraser got a phone call from the GM, and it went that they were discussing right there that uh, we might not be coming back because the next morning we were supposed to fly out. The next morning we were supposed to fly out to Russia on a short road trip, and but they weren't sure, and that maybe they should suggest to offer to the wives and families to be able to come on a plane with us because we charter. And so we were packing, not really knowing. So we packed a suitcase, and I packed up all my other stuff at the hotel, put it down in storage at the hotel. And sure enough, by the time we got to Russia, it was official that the league was saying no teams were going to be allowed back in China. So now we were on the road, and we're going to stay on the road for the rest of the season.
And that's like so late. Like what are we talking here? Like you guys were on the
And,
road for what, 5 weeks, 6 weeks?
yeah, it was the third. I think it ended up being 30. I don't know, over a month, and uh, we just kind of bounced around. And most of that road trip, most of the time, would have been road trips anyways. But when we had the home games, they just slapped our logo on the ice, and it was a home game.
Wow. What are the challenges of that? Like what, in terms of just living, coaching, managing players and people as they go through, what was it scary in terms of managing the emotions of that or just the logistics of it, Dusty, and bouncing around like that and never, we hear a lot, even in the NHL, when you're on the road, practices disappear. So were you able to get practice time? How hard was this on your team and on your goalies?
It was a really interesting challenge for sure. Like for me, you know, I could bitch and moan about the stuff that was going on, but like it was the players are really, my hat went off to them, and what they dealt with, having to go out in the ice and play. Like for me, coaching is one thing, but to actually what what that team went through all year, and then all year the travel and everything that went on was crazy for this team, and then to cap it off with the whole virus thing and not being allowed to go back home. Like I packed my stuff and it was in the storage of the hotel, but all the other guys left with all of their stuff in their apartments, leases still open, uh, everything unpacked, and then knowing that they're not going to be allowed back was a lot to deal with. And then just to be on the road all the time. And like you said, the practice time, the actual working on stuff, really dropped off. And uh, it wasn't hard for me to work around that. I felt that stuff for me is easy to manage. It was more the mentally they were spent by the end. Like you could see it. We needed to win that last game of the season to make the playoffs, and another team needed to lose. And but you could just see as that month wore on, uh, they were giving it everything they had, but the players just didn't have a lot left in the tank. The goalies did an amazing job, but we kind of fell short, and that's why I ended up back home.
Now, your goalies, Jeremy Smith, there's a name that a lot of people would probably recognize, having played some in North America. I think originally if I remember correctly, drafted by the Nashville Predators and spent some time there at the beginning. Simone Rubik, if I'm saying that right. I'm probably not because I suck.
That's not bad. Not
Okay,
bad.
okay. But he's also got some personality there, if I remember correctly, from seeing some highlights over in Europe. But he had some post game celebrations, if I'm not mistaken.
He,
What were
he's a
those two
great
guys
guy.
like? Yeah, what
They're
was
both
that?
awesome. Awesome guys. They were a lot of fun to work with. Totally different people. Uh, but how do I say, managed to develop the same kind of unity and team atmosphere within the goalie bubble, the goalie union, much the same as we did when I had Cal Peterson and Jack Campbell in Ontario. And they really just fed off each other all year. I ended up uh, splitting them right down the middle all year. Uh, and they each played the same amount of games. And, they both are number one goalies in the sense that they wanted to be the guy, but they really embraced what kind of I was trying to preach and just kind of support one another. And I think it really helped them get through that year the way the year went, and just going and playing when they got in and cheering on the other guy, because it's kind of like you needed each other to get through that season.
Well, and some pretty good seasons statistically, at least. I know maybe not in the win loss column, but we all know that's not a goalie stat, right? So,
Mm.
looking at their numbers, save percentage wise, they had a pretty good year. What walk us through, because we talked about this before when we had you on the podcast last time. We'll get back to coronavirus and things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
but goalie stuff. Walk me through when you talk about that goalie bubble, Dusty, and creating that team, that camaraderie, that atmosphere that allows both guys to thrive. Some of the keys, some of the approaches you use to get everyone on the same page. How did it work this time compared to others? What are some of the focal points for you that allows you to have that success with them early on?
Over time, I kind of figured out that to get people to want to do something or follow a philosophy or follow me or whatever, um, sometimes it's better to develop. It is better to develop the relationship first. I know you want to kind of you want to you want to preach. You're excited to teach what you think is right and good and will help, but if you come in hot up front, a lot of people aren't very responsive to that. So I really took my time in developing the relationship first with them, and we became really good friends first, and then you kind of start to develop that philosophy and kind of guiding them into this uh, cheering on one another and being a team unit, the two of them together. But if I had have probably just said, "Hey, I want you guys to, both of you, you're going to cheer each other on and you're going to split the games," and they probably would have been like, "Huh?"
What's this guy
But
all about?
right. But the way I usually go about it is not up front, and I introduce that as we go along. And they really did embrace the fact that they needed each other. Um, I think it doesn't matter, even though their season was incredibly difficult, for any goalie tandem, I think it can only help if you're supporting one another.
Now, you mentioned, getting to know them first and building that camaraderie before you introduce changes or ask for changes. What did you find in the style of game over there that you had to adapt to in terms of whether it's what you asked of your goalies? Like, how was the game different and how did that affect the goaltenders? I've talked to guys who played over there. This is a while ago, going back to the last
Mm.
lockout, where, just pass, dust it off from an open look and pass one more time, right? Like nobody
Mm.
shoots seems to be the mentality. How does that affect goaltenders? Positives, negatives? Are there things that you could develop over there because of the style that you think would benefit guys when they come back, later in their career? We've seen guys come over and have success after playing in the K. What'd you think of the game, the style, and how it fit the goalies and adjustments?
Well, it's definitely a different game, but like I was no stranger to that style of game because I played over there for a long time and with the national program and stuff and world championships and stuff. So I wasn't too surprised about anything. The biggest thing for me, um, the types of things that I teach and the things I encourage goalies to do. Uh, kind of help for that style of game. And when you bounce back to North America, and that's you using your edges and working on your skating ability and reading the shot and not just dropping and not just playing from your knees. And I think when you get to a game like that, it really helps in that situation because you have to be more patient because they're not always shooting the puck. They're doing a lot of dusting it off, like you said. A lot of skill over there. But then it can translate over to a North American game. I think it's just as beneficial to be holding your feet and reading shot in any league. So yeah, it wasn't a big deal for me. I so if I was teaching something different, maybe it would have been an issue. But the things that I like to help and incorporate, it just kind of helped them out.
I haven't seen him play in a while, but I would guess from what I remember of Jeremy Smith, it would have suited his game. I always, at least early in his career, I thought of him as a good skater.
Yeah, for sure. There are some things that he kind of had leaked into his game. I think that we kind of talked about over time and addressed. Like he was doing a lot of sliding and getting a little bit hunched over, and his balance was a little bit off. But we had fun working on all that stuff. He was really open. His just the base of his game was very similar to stuff and how I used to play. Very similar to Soupy and Jack Campbell. Likes to make the big saves and dive around at times, which is cool. So we just worked on his skating, and his skating is really good. He just when you bounce around from team to team and you get goalie coach to goalie coach, things change. And sometimes it's a good thing to have someone like maybe like with my style that can kind of just bring back what you really liked about yourself.
Well, and I would imagine too, like I've talked to goalies about that over the years. It's tough when you bounce around. It's not just that different goalie coaches ask you to do different things, but sometimes even things that may not suit your game, you feel like you have to do it because you need to make that guy that's asking you happy because he's probably the guy that decides whether you play or not. So sometimes, yes, we want goalies to embrace new ideas, but there comes a time where they have to learn what works for them and maybe trust that as well.
It's a tough spot, man. It really is. And then I've been there. I played through that, and it can be a real challenge to kind of decide what you're going to do and not do because ultimately those are the guys that make the decision. So
Now you said tough and challenge. What was the toughest part at the beginning? Obviously, those guys, and I'm not sure about Harubik in terms of language. Obviously, Jeremy is from North America, so no language barriers there. But you're in China. I know you've played overseas, obviously spent time overseas. But what were some of the unique challenges, even before the virus made you guys a permanent road team? How tough was it? The long road trips. What was give me an idea of what a long road trip was from Beijing to Russia? Like, we're talking some epic plane rides here. What were some of the biggest challenges, not just for you, but for these goalies?
yeah, for me it was minimal. Like I would complain that I was tired. That's basically it. But I literally would go to the game and watch them play hockey in the same kind of state that I was in. So I was like, my hat was off to those guys. But we're talking, you want to talk about epic road trips. Like we used to cry and moan about going from LA to Toronto and say, oh, the time change and 4 or 5 hour flight. Oh, this sucks, man. That's it, when we had a 4 or 5 hour flight, it was like we were just elated. The trips were ridiculous. We did one, Beijing to Finland to Helsinki, and I think we were 18 hours or 19 hours in the air. We did a fuel stop in God knows where, Siberia. I don't know, and and then door to door we're like 28 hours or something, and then the guys played the next night.
The next
Like
night.
it's and here's the kicker. all the teams that would come to Beijing from Russia would schedule play Saturday, Sunday. They would play 2 games and then get out because they didn't want to go back to Beijing. It was long, brutal trip. They didn't like food, these kinds of things. So they would schedule all the teams to rest. We never played one doubleheader all year.
So if you had 2 games against the team, you had to go there twice.
Yeah, we every road game we did singles all year.
Ouch.
Literally. So like if we did an eight game road trip, it was 8 different cities.
Wow. Yeah, that's got to have an effect.
And we're talking like you're bouncing like multi time zone changes. We're not talking 3-4 hours here. Like it's ridiculous. It's insane, actually.
Did you start to see that effect on? I mean, I imagine as the year went on, but have an effect physically?
Yeah, for sure. At the very end, we actually tried something that the Russian teams do. Is we based in Moscow that last road trip, and then we kind of bounced around. But we stayed once we got to Moscow, we stayed on Moscow time. So wherever we went, we would stay on Moscow time. So we would be practicing at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and then eat at the same times that you would have been eating in Moscow, and then go play the game. It was really odd.
Did it work? Did you see a positive effect on it?
I was a mess. I was so out of whack, but the players seemed to like it. They seemed to think it worked. I don't know.
Well, okay, you said you were tired just watching them when they were doing all the work, but managing that fatigue for them, I'm guessing, and okay, I'm not guessing because I've seen your Instagram and your social media, that meant you had to hop on the ice a little bit to give the guys a break. You had the pads with you. How many times did you end up practicing over there?
30.
More than usual.
Like a lot. Like yeah. I was the third guy. It was way, way more than before.
Is that just managing rest? Like helping them manage their rest?
Yeah. That was it became a real issue. Like I was really concerned about it because it was so much travel and just keeping them fresh. And I always would ask almost every day, like how they were feeling. And if I felt that it would be beneficial, even just to take the like little bits of the drill so they could work really hard at the drill. And then when they would gas out, I could go in. As opposed to if I'm just standing there as a coach and they're trying to manage their practice, they're not really getting the most out of each drill because they're going 60-70%, trying to just get through practice, right? So this way it allowed them to go hard on drills, and then I could jump in for them and just relieve them at times. And it's at the end though. At the end, it really made a difference, I thought, for them, and the players seemed to like it too. They had a good time with it.
Do you show them some old school looks in there, or what?
Oh yeah. It was actually funny at the end. By the end, once you start skating, you start to feel a lot better, and there was definitely a difference. My wind and stuff was still sucky, but I actually started to feel a little bit better.
There's a couple pad stacks. Make sure they remember how we used to do it.
Yeah, the players would get really annoyed at me because I do the glove bait all day long, and they would get so mad.
Okay, so that's a lost art. You give it to them and take it away. It really is a lost art. Do you talk to your goalies about that? Like, do you ever try and teach that to young goalies or work with some of your goalies on that? Because like you said, in a practice setting, some of the techniques that we've seen disappear, some of the mindset, some of the philosophy, they work. Would they work in a game? Has anybody got the cojones to do it, to show that much glove and take it away? Where do you think we're, where are we at in that crossroads between old and new school? You think we need to see some more of that?
Well, you can, if you were ever to interview any of them, Boods, Cal, Soup, Jeremy now, and Simone, uh, I totally teach it. I have no I don't care. Other goalie coaches can say whatever they want, but I teach it.
Okay, so
I think
there's still definitely still a place for it if you're teaching it. We're not giving away
uh,
state secrets here.
no, you could ask Soupy. Probably is the biggest advocate. He loves using it, and but they all do, right? And we use it in moderation. You know what I mean? Like it's not like you stand off to the side and you just wave your glove. But I think it's totally a usable tool because these shooters are good, man. And whenever we can take some advantage away from them, uh, if we're doing the same thing all the time, things become predictable. And if you take that element out of there, things become a little bit of a question mark for the shooters, and they'll start second guessing themselves. And if obviously, if you don't have a good glove, then it's something that needs to be worked on. But if you know how to catch a puck and you still can hold your ground, evenly, and then at last minute just maybe lean a little bit, and then trust me, if you see shooters and you do this, and you can ask the guys when I go net, like it happens I do it all the time. And, KHL shooters, I can still get them to do it.
Well,
Shoot there.
we've heard
Their
this
eyes light up.
because they see it, and would you see their eyes light up, and you're like, yeah, I got them.
Yeah. And you know what I mean? Like mine, the way I do it's a little bit extreme, but you can incorporate it with a new goaltender that plays a good, solid game and has a great glove, and then just dips a little bit more and holds their hand a little bit in, and then they think they got that area. You know what I mean? And Soupy does it all the time.
Oh, that's great because we've seen this. This is a conversation I've had with NHL goalies all year. Guys like Robin Lane are talking about, hey, like unpredictability matters now. These guys have grown up knowing what the butterfly is, where the holes in are, how to open up those holes. So showing them a different look has some value, whether it's a one knee down patient save or, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, showing it and taking it away. Secrets to teaching it? Is there any little tip if we got kids out there right now listening, Dusty, that are like, what is this? What is this show it and take it away this man speaks of? How would you teach it?
Um, you want to really be careful when you start to introduce it. The guys aren't really stepping so far off that they're giving tons of net on the bottom and the top. But you can literally just drop your knees a little bit lower, and show a little bit up here, and just lean. Keep your feet in the same spot,
Yeah.
And I'm not talking a huge lean, but even if you just lean a little bit for just a little bit to this side and weight yourself on your blocker side leg a little bit, they won't even see that. But it'll just show just enough. Trust me, these guys, if they see something, they'll go for it.
Well, and I was just going to say, if you're loading up that blocker side leg, you're loading to push in that direction where they shoot as well, anyways, right? You're sort of spring loaded to move to that side. And believe me, I believe you, Dusty, because I play on a weekly basis. Now, this is obviously not KHL; it's glorified beer league, but with some guys that played junior and a couple drafted guys, and the goalie at the other end is older than me, and he's exceptional. He does this all the time, and he always tells me, you gotta give it to him and then take it away. You gotta do this. And I'm like, Billy Morrison's his name. I'm like, Billy, I am just trying my best to stay in the middle of the net here. I can't do it. But it is a lost art, and there is some value there for these kids to
Yeah.
learn how to do it properly. They're not all too set in their ways and crappy like me. Clearly, if it works at the highest level, you can teach it. That's good to know.
Yeah, no, I totally believe in it. And you know what? I think it keeps the game fun, and it's just like we're trying to. When I encourage people to, if they find new stuff with the new game or the new teachers, there's value in all of it. Like I don't knock some of the newer stuff or anything like that, but there's also some value in some of the older things that has, like you said, been lost. And I tell you what, the guys don't catch pucks as well as they used to. I know that.
And let's go to that one real quick. How do you teach a guy how to catch a puck? Because I know you've done it. You've had guys that are sort of a little rigid,
Yeah.
maybe, and don't catch a lot of pucks. They just get in the way and they're bouncing off they don't get it they're bouncing off palms and bouncing off cuffs and not getting it in the pocket. How would you teach a guy to catch a puck?
Well, it's a tough thing because lots of guys are growing up with goalie school teachers, and the goalie school guys are being taught by certain guys, and once it kind of gets moving, it's hard to stop the snowball. And I think one thing that has been lost is learning how to receive pucks, because we've really worked hard on being square to pucks and centered to the puck, and and trust me, these guys are amazing at doing this. The level of these goalies now is incredible. But one of the things they lose is everything is so positional, and I see a lot of guys being taught how to, track the puck visually, and so they're doing a lot of this, right? And when they're going like towards the puck when they're trying to catch the puck, and it's tough to catch a puck like that.
So
If it gets in the,
you're moving, your hands moving at it as it's coming at you, as opposed, like you said, receiving it, almost absorbing it, pulling almost back a little bit. Is that a fair description?
It's totally, and that's one thing about that helped with me actually being on the ice to kind of show it. They really kind of, and then I did it with actual players that are on their team, and I'm not just like they're coming down and ripping it, and I'm receiving the puck, and I'm not saying you got to windmill the puck, but it just let the puck come to you. The other thing too is lots of guys have their hands set up in such a way that it makes it difficult to catch pucks because lots of times they got their hands out here, and that's being taught a lot, right? And it's hard when your elbow is not cocked, if you will, to kind of receive a puck if you're out like this, right?
Straight arms with your hands way out in front. Yeah, for those who can't see you.
Yeah, okay. and also the other thing too is, a natural position for your wrist and your glove is like this, right?
Straight, yeah.
How many guys do you see do this?
Right, with the hand open and the arms pulled up. So that fingers up thing, as much as it takes away net visually, it doesn't create a natural catching motion.
Not at all. And you watch guys that are really good at catching. You catch them in pictures. And you see shots of Tuca and guys like this. Their palms not facing the puck. You can't see their mitt. They're like this.
If you right. It's like their fingers are pointing straight out at the puck. Yeah.
But it's nice and relaxed and cocked and everything's loose, and then you just kind of catch it, right?
Yeah.
And you just receive it, and then so many more pucks will stay in the mitt when you just receive it.
I need a lesson, Dusty. It's too bad they've closed all the ice rinks around us here. Believe me, I need to learn how to catch the puck. Everything just bounces off me like it's a live grenade. Listen, buddy, I did want to bring it back because you have been all over. You obviously came from China. Now I got to ask, did you ever get your bags back? So you left a set of bags or in storage at the hotel in China. How were you able to get those back? Because you went to Russia, spent more than a month there, bouncing all over the place. Then you came home. Did you recover your stuff? Are guys still having trouble getting stuff out of there, or what?
This is all stuff from storage here.
The Pink Floyd 1973 tour was in storage.
This in storage here in Canada.
In Canada, so you don't have it.
So I'm pulling out all the old stuff because everything is in China.
So you bought a bunch of stylish new gear in China and you don't have it.
Never.
Are you gonna get it?
I don't know, man. I really don't. I don't know if I want it back.
I guess there's that. Now, what's it been like? I mean, obviously you left before this took off in China. They evacuated you guys before we hit the levels that have everyone scared now. But bouncing around Europe, in Russia, into Finland, and now being back home and going to LA. You did a trip to LA. You had a chance to see Jack Campbell, who you coached with the Kings. You managed to get down there to see a game where the Leafs were in town. Got a chance to catch up with Cal Peterson. So you've been in the States, you've been in California, you've been back here in Vancouver. I guess the biggest irony that tells you where we're at is you and I are doing this over Zoom when we're actually physically about 20 blocks away. But my family's in a state of self-isolation, so we're doing Zoom instead of you and me sitting down over a coffee. What have you seen in terms of the way the world has handled this, from China to Russia to here in Vancouver to trips to LA? What lessons have you learned? What do you think of what's going on?
It's actually been really interesting. We talked about it before we started the interview. I when I was over there, I just noticed a real different vibe, and take this with a grain of salt. Like it when it was over there, and when I was over there, uh, they have a different way of dealing with things in general, and it just seemed I didn't notice the, the craziness as much. That now maybe it was happening, but like the, we don't watch the news nearly as much over there because we can't understand it. So
Right.
you don't. The social media isn't as prevalent over there, especially if you're not Russian and you're not reading the Russian social
Right.
media. So I didn't notice it as much. And you walk around, the day is going, the league's running, everything's fine, shops are running, people are shopping, no big deal. And then I got back here, and it was a totally different vibe. And it's it escalated. It's gone really fast too, and every day seems like one more thing that is happening or getting shut down, and the grocery shopping areas, and it's incredible the stuff that's happening, and people preparing for the worst. And you know what? I'm not knocking it, because one thing I will say is, if we had just kind of been more consistent and dealt with it, the U.S. and Canada are very, like, they're going to get this thing taken care of, and they're not messing around. So my hat's off to them for that. It just seems uh, a, a little bit of a panic. I don't like I I hope everyone stays calm. Like, things are. I think we'll get this under control, and everybody's doing their best. But it just seemed like a different vibe over there. That's all I noticed, and it even has me a little more concerned now that I'm here, even though I
You're
was like,
at
I was
ground zero, not quite, but close to it.
right.
Yeah.
Um, I'm more. It's freaking me out a little more now that I'm here.
Well, probably just that we have such an increased awareness here. Like you said,
Very much,
it's
yeah.
panic's not a good thing, but awareness and even taking some of these measures. Like I said, I was on my way over to your place, and my wife just said, "Hey, we're asking our kids not to go hang out and
Mm,
have coffee and to be careful." So we did this on Zoom. So, um, it's, I guess, if everyone's careful, maybe we can, as they're talking now, flatten the curve a little bit. I wanted to ask you one more chance to catch up with Jack.
yeah.
And I know you would have been a guy that he would have reached out to when he got traded from LA to Toronto. I know how much you mean to him and that relationship there. How do you think he's handled it when you got a chance to catch up with him? And also, him leaving means a chance for one of your other longtime pupils, Cal Peterson, a guy who
Hmm.
you played a role in getting to the Kings, or having them
Hmm.
make sure they targeted him. How are those two guys handling those new roles, and how excited are you? Is it like a sort of proud parent moment kind of thing when you see these guys excel in new places?
It was the best. I was so glad that I went. I, I I promised them, if I was out of the playoffs and I was back home, then I would come to that game, because at the chance that if they both played, that would have been the sickest thing ever. They didn't. They were both riding the pine that night. Played the next night, which pissed me off. But anyways, um, it was a great experience. I thought they both uh, are handling their roles unbelievably, but I'm so not surprised at all. Um, I I was a little more anxious for Soupy, because he was going to literally the fire zone of all fire zones for goalies. Uh, but I thought I helped prepare him, and as I felt he was ready. 4 years ago, if he had went there, it, it would have been a good scenario. But he's ready for it. He's to embrace it, and as skeptic as some of the media and the fans that were in Toronto when it first happened, I think they're starting to figure it out and embracing that guy, because he's a genuine article.
Last one for you. What does the future hold? I'm not sure what your contract status is. I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this, but Does the way things ended there, I mean, would you be hesitant to go back with all that's going on? Or is the fact it's over here now too, like where do you come out at the end of that? Like overall, how do you see the experience? As difficult as it was, were there positives there?
Oh yeah, lots. The guys are awesome. The whole team. I loved all the guys on the team, the coaching staff. Um, there are enough positives to go back. As far as back to Beijing, I don't know that the team is going to be allowed back. I've heard rumors that the KHL is going to make them relocate, and there's all kinds of rumors of places, but London and these kinds of places have been popping up. But yeah, I have another year on my contract. I have an option out if an NHL team calls me. I said to friends and family and myself, I would consider taking a head job if the place was right and the money was right. But I'd be honest, I and people know this. The NHL itself, the stamp that goes along with it, I don't care about. I love coaching. I love coaching in LA. I love in Winnipeg, but being an NHL coach was not a goal of mine. Having great challenges and helping people is. If being ahead somewhere in the NHL is the right fit, I would consider it and come back. And my team in Kunlun knows that. But I totally, right now as it stands, I'm going to go back, and we'll see.
Yeah,
there's
lots in the air.
This is some big stuff going on right now.
Yeah,
so.
it's not a priority. Obviously, there are bigger things in the world. So let's just hope that no matter where you end up, it's a place where we still get to talk to you. Because I know there are some NHL teams where that's not possible. I'm not naming any names. And we would certainly be worse for not having these conversations. Dusty, I know our audience is going to appreciate this. Not just because you bring stories from where this all came, but mostly the stories about goaltenders and how you've helped them and some of your philosophies. Look forward to catching up in person over a coffee as this all dies down here in White Rock. But thanks, man. Really appreciate it, and all the best.
Right on, bud.
Fascinating, fun, scary, personable, and a real journey with Dusty Imoo on this week's feature interview for In Goal Radio, the podcast. And the second timer, Hutch, as he first joined us on episode mid-20s, I believe. And that covered sort of the first part of his career, which was equally as fascinating and had twists and turns all over the place.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous. Kevin's the guy who gets to spend all the time with Dusty because he's a fascinating individual. We've texted back and forth and tried to set up a chance to meet, and it's just never quite worked for schedules. And talking about schedules, for me, that was the highlight of today's interview. Just listening to him talk about what that team has gone through in the KHL this season, and those travel schedules, just insane. It was really fun to listen to that, and and just as a person, I want to get to know him because it's a very different approach. You can tell with his goaltenders. It's a wise approach for any leader to try and, understand the people he's working with before he starts to come in and ask them to change. But the fact that he talks about creating a friendship with these guys above all else is not a normal approach for coaches, I don't think. And I like that he's able to do it that way. I'd like to know more.
He talked about that a lot in episode, you said it was 25, right, Hutch? That first
25,
interview?
yeah.
Which I definitely encourage people go to listen to because he is a fascinating guy with lots of great points. If you just listen to this interview and you're not an In Goal Premium subscriber, so you haven't had a chance to go watch the video form of this, because we did record in Zoom, you can hear me because he's describing, when we talked about, the lost art of catching pucks or baiting shooters, he's describing it. I can see him on the video, but I know our listeners can't. So that's why I kept interjecting to sort of describe the hand position that he was illustrating. I would recommend for those that were fascinated by it and want to learn more to check out the video interview where you can see his body language. You can see him leaning to his side and loading up one leg, demonstrating how he would bait a shooter. see how he holds his hand, how he absorbs pucks, how he teaches young goalies. I shouldn't even say young goalies, professional goalies who've been playing for 10 years, a guy like Jeremy Smith, how to catch pucks. Because a lot of them, in his mind, as the game's gotten more technical, it's become a bit of a lost art. So we tease a little bit of that on Instagram and social media. But for those that would, I think benefit or enjoy checking out the video where you can actually see him describe it, I totally think it's worth it. And it's available now on In-Goal Premium.
Baiting shooters is a conversation that we could spend an entire episode on, just on the fundamentals of it, the foundation of it. And it used to be something you would bait a shooter if you were really good in a certain area. But now it's a skill that's built into the entire goaltending resume.
I used to bait shooters just for protection. Give them that side of the net in practice so that it's going there and not hitting you.
I can't do it. Like we talked about it on the pod with Dusty. I play down at the other end as a guy who's a little older, and he's always telling me to show something, take it away. And I'm just like, my God, I'm just trying to stay in the middle of the freaking net down here, man.
Take away the middle.
But it works. Like I've watched him set these guys up, and I've watched, and some of these guys played pro, not at the highest level, minor pro. And I watched them come down the wing, and I'm like, oh, as soon as they lower their head, he moves back into the space and they shoot right into it. And you're just like, oh, you guys, come on. But it works. He's so good at it. And I suck so badly at it. It's frustrating to watch, but it's become a bit of a lost art for young goaltenders.
Well, it can be a real advantage if you can get your head around it. And maybe the psychology of it, which adds to this one episode on baiting shooters idea, might be the most important part. If you don't believe in it, you're never going to be able to do it. But if you can believe in it, boy, can it help set the table for you and be more proactive than reactive.
Well, if it's a mental skill, let's be honest, I'm not going to pick up on it because we've established at this point that I am a mental midget anytime I go between the pipes. So that would explain my inability.
You do have shortcomings.
Many.
Our hearts go out to and our thoughts to those at the hockey shop. This new reality that we're living in, and fiscally and businesses are struggling because just plain old you can't function like you normally do. You can't go out. You can't play your games. You can't do the things. You can't work as you normally would. And it's no secret that sports has been highly impacted by COVID-19, and the hockey shop is part of that wave that's getting swamped right now because of the fact that there's no ice to be played on, and it's tough to do your normal routine, buy your gear, tape your sticks, get your skate sharpened, all that when you're not playing the game. And so we're wishing Cam and everybody over at the hockey shop all the best.
Yeah, and so that means that for them, you can check them out at all of their regular social media to get the updates. Last I checked yesterday, and things are, as you know, around the world, everything is changing on a daily basis. Literally, as we were coming on the air to record this, they declared a state of emergency in BC, and I didn't even have a chance to see whether that affected non-essential businesses. But as of yesterday, the last update from them was that they were going to be going to limited hours. So they will still be open, but only for certain times. For now, the online hockeyshop.com was still going to be functioning, but obviously at a time when you're having to lay off employees and cut back hours, spending money on advertising and the sponsorship of the In-Goal podcast is just not a priority right now. And so we understand that. We wish them all the best. They're still a great place to go. It's where we would go. It's where we will go when they open up again. But for the time being, we will not have gear segments brought to you by Cam and the Hockey Shop. We're going to miss those. We will start to dial into some of the new gear that we've been testing ourselves over the past couple of weeks. The gear segment won't go away completely. It'll just be altered a little bit in the short term. We'll start talking about the Bauer ultrasonic pads that we've been trying. Lots of great features there to love. We've got the CCM Axis coming in. So we'll still have a gear segment here. We're just going to do it a little bit differently. Also, the other thing in terms of the hockey shop, we should probably let people know because we spent the last couple of weeks hyping it up. Tandy Fest is going to fall victim to the corona virus. It has been canceled for this year. I believe they announced that again on their social channels yesterday. So everybody that set the date for May 24th, we're just going to have to put that date back here. We'll do it next year. Can't wait to see everybody. But for now, it's been canceled for this year. And yeah, that's too bad, because I know for a lot of people, it's a great opportunity to sort of try the latest and greatest gear. And it just means you're going to have to lean into our reviews as we start to publish them a little harder to find out just how that next set of gear, that next generation from the major manufacturers, what style of game it suits, what type of goalie's going to love it, all those key elements that we try and bring you through our printed online product.
Do you remember about Tendy Fest last year? Well, other than Tristan Jarry hanging out with us, and then he gets the in-goal bump, was I discovered Bauer pads and just how they sit on your foot, and I was blown away by just optically how much bigger they looked, and Hutch's stickers, in-goal stickers that were a big success at our booth. You were right on that, and they were so popular.
Well, they're Matty's stickers now. The orders come in and he processes them, and you even get a handwritten thank you note from Matty if you order any in-goal stickers now. So it's fun to be able to make him part of the family with that. I remember the Bauer pad thing as well, because I remember people looking at our demo set there and saying, there's no way those are legal width, and actually holding them up against other pads. And they of course they're legal width. Optically, there's something interesting going on there.
But those at the hockey shop, is great meeting everybody last year at Tenny Fest, and hopefully we can catch up very soon, and we'll get through this. We'll get through this together, and we'll also help each other out as we make this journey through the virus scare and being safe.
Well, one of the things, sorry, Hutch, I was just gonna say, one of the things we want to do to help you out is make sure we're bringing you fresh content. I teased pro reads and more NHL goalies. We're going to try and have as many as they settle into their new routines, reach out through some private channels and some of the numbers we have, and make sure we get these guys on the air to talk goaltending with us and with you, our listeners. We've already got it set up for next week. Semyon Varlamov, we had an interview with him. We're going to roll that in with an interview from a Russian goalie coach that was here in Vancouver to work with Ian Clark. He brought a bunch of students from Russia with him. Varley went in and talked to them, gave a presentation. His name's Oleg Gramashko. So a bit of a Russian look at goaltending next week. Doubleheader, Semyon Varlamov and Russian goaltending coach Oleg Gramashko. That should be a fun one.
Sibla.
Hi guys, I was just going to add, as we're giving our thoughts out to our friends at the hockey shop, of course, this is affecting economically a whole lot of people in the goalie union and goalie nation. Our thoughts go out to all of the coaches that are being severely impacted at this time of year, having to cancel camps, having to cancel lessons. All of our listeners who are being affected economically. We know a lot of people are losing jobs right now, and we feel for all of them, and we hope that our little bit of time we're able to provide you a little bit of enjoyment on the goalie side as you listen to the podcast, and we wish you all well.
Yeah, the journey will continue, albeit on a slightly different path at a slightly different pace. But your education is here. Your entertainment source is also here, as we will bring you the content from the Goalie Union. For David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley, I'm Darren Millard. Thanks for listening. We'll chat with you again next week on In Goal Radio, the podcast.